in central New York, in a period of 8 hours, 500 people in a small area of central New York, a small town area, went to the hospital with flu-like conditions.
Yeah.
They probably dropped something. Probably did some sort of, they always do this, and all of a sudden you see birds fall out of the sky and, all this crazy shit. And now these people have flu-like symptoms, and the phones were off the hook for like 8 hours. It was reported by another Truth guy. I wish I can't think of his name right now. I'm drawing a blank because I should plug
squashed. The whole story's been squashed.
Yeah, the whole story's been squashed, of course, absolutely. Yeah. But it's real. They tested to see how effective this will be when they do it. Because I really, honestly, I'm pretty fearful about the biological edge because I've done a lot of research with the CIA and people like you and Cameron and and Fort Detrick, and I mean I know what goes on over there in Cold Spring Harbor. So the people don't know that. So they'll just think, oh, it's good, and we'll come, we'll help you. I'm so tired of the government wanting to help us. Look what they've done to. They've helped us into bankruptcy, into poverty.
Yeah, leave me the hell alone.
Leave me alone.
Let's just go over a couple of real quick points, okay?
Sure.
We're talking about this guy, the last guy I know of, and I'm 57 years old. I was born in 1954. I can honestly tell you that when I went to school in the late 50s and the early 60s, and the first thing we did every morning was we put our hand over our hearts and we said the Pledge of Allegiance. And I got goosebumps. I did. I was so damn proud to be part of this country. I really was. And I wrote a piece the other day, and I published it, and it pretty much went viral across the network, and it was called, I think I told you about this, I Cry for My Country. Mm. I have seen the deterioration. I have seen everything we had once stood for. And even in the 50s, I have to admit, now that I look back on it and I've done my research, a lot of this was already underway. But it wasn't as prevalent, it wasn't as open as it is today. But let's a couple of quick points. Why are they so terrified of this guy? All right, the first thing he wants to do is we have almost, or by the end of this year, we will have as many as 900 military bases around the world, okay, in 130 different countries. The biggest portion of our budget is not spent on welfare. It's not spent on anything but the military. 54 cents of every dollar that's spent in this country by our government is either directly or indirectly spent on the military. We have reached the point where our GDP is finally outstripped by our debt. So we are in a situation
it's doubled. It's doubled.
We're in trouble.
Yeah.
So he wants to put a stop to this. He wants to put a stop to this massive military spending. Okay, they are very, very afraid of him getting into office. Now let's go to the second point, the Federal Reserve. He doesn't want, Dr. Ron Paul does not want to get in and just stop the Federal Reserve. You can't do that. That would be chaos across the entire economy. But he has a brilliant idea. He says, while we transition over to a good, solid money system, we will tax the Federal Reserve for every fiat dollar they print, which will bring huge bucks into the
That's a great idea.
Let's make them pay for it.
Exactly.
So the Federal Reserve is now.
And then guess what? And guess what? For all the Roger, you're making great points. But we got some sheeple out there that listen, because hopefully I try to attract the sheeple. They're not going to listen to the. They're going to think, the people that think we're going to be like, oh my God, we have this threat with Iran and we have this threats around the world. They don't realize that our presence is what's creating the threat. Because again, it's the Hegelian dialectic. We're creating the conflict and then offering the solution as the peacekeeper.
And one of the biggest complaints that the neocons have out there and the extreme liberals have about him is that he's an isolationist.
Which is ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. He is not an isolationist. His point of view is, okay, if we are not out there as warmongering imperialists, creating more enemies on a daily basis by the crap and the shit we're pulling. If we were trading with these people and had good, solid diplomatic relations with these people, we wouldn't have these enemies.
Yeah, but Roger, but Roger, wait a minute. Now you're stepping on my toes. This is Lord Rothschild. Now you have to understand. Israel must continue to persecute they must continue to persecute the Palestinians, and that must be the motto. So we're trying you cannot stop this.
Too. Did you know that? Ron Paul is supposed to be anti-Israel, but if you listen to him,
he's not anti-Israel. He's anti-foreign. Anti all bailouts for all these countries. Assistance. I mean, why do we give Israel $30 billion a year?
Ron Paul has flat out stated we need to get our nose out of their business.
Absolutely, let them do their own shit. Exactly. Because they're,
we need to get the hell out of Israel and let them run their own country. But
absolutely.
Let's take the flip side of that. Who exerts the largest political influence in this country over Congress? By Congress,
AIPAC.
I'm talking about
AIPAC.
the Senate
Is
and
it
the
AIPAC?
House. Israel.
It's
Yeah.
AIPAC, yeah. It's AIPAC. I know
has
that.
the largest political influence. A country smaller than the state of New Jersey virtually controls the way Congress thinks and acts in this country. Doesn't that just scream volumes to everyone?
It does, but they don't want
the back of your neck.
Yeah, of course, they don't want to look at the reality that what it is, truthfully what it is, it's the American Rockefeller interests and the Rothschild interests and that whole region and their plan to literally control the whole region and all the oil. And they're going to do it at the expense of playing one country off against the other country,
right,
and back and forth. And we go in to clean up the mess and lose a couple of 100,000 lives in the process over the time. 5,000 this war, 6,000 that war. And that's their ultimate goal. And then Iran, I mean, we're ready to push the button on them because you're pulling. I don't know. They're trying to just get them to strike first, so they have an excuse to blow them off the map. I mean,
we are responsible for over 1.5 million deaths so far in that region of the world.
Oh, more than that. I thought it was more than that.
And an additional 1 million maimed for life, and an additional 2 million displaced from their homes. We have done this. Aren't you proud? I know I am.
Oh, Jesus, it's terrible. I can't even believe it. Roger, I mean, it makes me think of Madeleine Albright when she was asked about the 500,000 children that'll be starved to death as a result of these sanctions. And she said, well, I think it's a price that we have to pay. And I mean, that's what it's all about, because it's about war, it's about money, it's not even, we're not looked at as humanity. These globalists, these people, literally they treat us like cattle. It's no different than like being a farm animal, and they just send us to war. They just send us to war for their purposes, and they say we're being patriotic. And if you're against it, you're against patriotism. You're not an American. And it's disgusting.
Oh, I agree.
It's disgusting. Why don't they come why don't they come fight us? Why don't these globalists come literally, get in tanks, come and those cowards instead of sending their minions and their other people to fight for them, and come attack America and really do it. Come to America, and you watch how this country the people in this country would rip their hearts out.
It can't be done.
No, I'm just saying, that's the point. They can't do it. We would rip their hearts out.
Way too many guns in the hands of private citizens
Exactly.
for the United States to be attacked. And everybody on this freaking planet knows it.
Exactly.
So
Thank God.
You have to watch. Hey, most countries, a lot of countries, and we're talking about republics, they don't fall from outside influence.
They fall from within.
That's
correct.
That's what's happening to us. We are rotting from within.
Exactly. You hit it right on the head. It's like having a cancer that's just growing and growing, and nobody wants to address it because they're just afraid to face the reality that their entire existence, their entire lives are a lie, and everything that they're told and they're taught is a lie, and that it's just we're further moving into enslavement, and that the minute that we sign off on world government is the day. That's the day. Really. I mean, that's the day we surrender our sovereignty as a nation. And And nobody quite understands that. That's what's at risk here, the sovereignty of our nation. But they won't say that. No, you're not going to lose your sovereignty. Don't worry about it. Then 6 months later, oh yeah, well, you did lose your sovereignty. That's how they do it.
Well, let's take a look at you. You started this out by talking about the Federal Reserve and talking about money, which is a topic that I would just like to expound on just a little bit more.
Sure.
Okay. Let's talk about budget cuts. Okay. Let's talk about Obama. Originally, they sat down to decide how to cut between $2.5 and $3 trillion out of budget over the next 10 years. Then what they ended up with is deciding, well, we're only going to work with $1 trillion, and then they decided they couldn't even come to an agreement on that. And then, if you looked into it, you found out there were no cuts involved at all. It was merely decreasing the level of increased spending in the future.
Right. It's shell game. It's shell game, smoke and mirrors. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so now let's go to the third point. I've given you 2 points why they're so terrified of this guy. Let me give you the third point. He has guaranteed us that within the first year of his presidency, he will cut $1 trillion from the budget.
Yeah.
Now, who do you think is freaking out about that?
The military.
Every large corporation in the military that survive on U.S. government welfare.
Exactly. He's cutting out the government welfare. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. I remember the Ron Paul.
Right.
I remember the question when they were asking Ron Paul in one of the debates, and again, the numbers they could use to say anything, and they were making it again like, they want to talk about cutting welfare when you said like before, that wouldn't put a dent in anything. All the money's involved basically in war is really where all the money's being spent, and that's where Ron Paul was saying that, they're telling that he's saying that he wants to get rid of Social Security. He wants to get rid of these social programs. And everybody pushes the panic button, but nobody listens. Because this is what he has said over and over again. If you have paid into this system all your life, we are not going to forsake you. Mm-hmm. If you have paid into these systems like me, I'm 57 years old. I can retire at 62 and a half and with a full Social Security pension at 65 years old. My Social Security under Ron Paul is 100% safe. What he's going to offer is the kids coming in at 25 and 30 years old nowadays to pay into a private system which will, believe it or not, by the time they're ready to retire, give them a much better pension than Social Security will. Because I've been paying into Social Security all my life, and how much money is left in the Social Security fund? It was never supposed to be touched. Yeah. Nothing.
Well,
there's a penny left in that fund.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot. That's a tremendous amount of truth to that. Exactly. I mean, for example, I'm in the middle there. I just missed that threshold that you hit. So then my retirement age is 60 for partial benefits is 65 and full benefits is 67. And then other people it's 67 and then 70. So I mean, that's just ridiculous because first of all, there's a tremendous amount of folks already that that don't understand what Social Security really was. Now, my father benefited it. You're guaranteed to benefit it. But it really is actually, are you aware that it's actually a collateral, the American people's collateral for the implosion phony bankruptcy of 1933? Because the Federal Reserve, of course, bankrupted us in 20 years.
With a collateral.
And when we became a collateral by Roosevelt, of course, lying against, truthfully lying, giving us Social Security. When you say, how can he lie? I got Social Security all these years. Yeah, but look what they've done. They've been siphoning in the money back and taking it all away. And yeah, the people in the beginning of the process benefited, but as it moves along, nobody will. And it's another Ponzi scheme. And they literally did it as a way of using us as cattle again. Our birth certificates are actual tradable assets. That's exactly right.
We are assets.
We are assets. There is no fucking doubt about it.
The public is being told that Ron Paul, they're being terrified with lies. Like Ron Paul's going to get in, he's going to cut your Social Security. And that's bullshit. He has no intentions of doing that. What he has intentions of doing is, again,
while you phase one program out, you phase another program in, one based on sound money and
Yes.
true investment.
Absolutely.
Not smoke and mirrors like Social Security is.